In the beginning, Iran thought they could intimidate the whole world. Their plan was a widespread terror campaign, not just against one country, but against everyone. But now, the tide of the fight has changed because the United States is no longer backing down. And it's clear that Iran is now paying for every move they've made. In just a few weeks, the Iranian regime has made a series of moves. These are no longer just military targets. Even apartment buildings have been bombed. Ordinary cargo ships attacked, and innocent people have been caught in the crossfire, all just to force the US to stop fighting. It's a desperate tactic. But at that point, it seemed America's patience also had its limits. And when their response came, it wasn't just a warning, it was a direct retaliation. In a major operation, the US used their bombers to target a very important bridge in Iran. This wasn't an ordinary bridge. Weapons passed through here. This is where supplies for their forces moved through. And in just a few moments, it was completely destroyed. It was like it vanished into thin air. A multi-billion-dollar structure turned to dust. That's where the real retaliation began. And that's also where the direction of the entire war started to change. But what's even more surprising? The escalation didn't start here. On the very first day of the conflict, Iran already did something that made the situation worse. While the US was targeting military sites inside Iran, Iran suddenly attacked another country. Not at military bases, but in residential areas. In places like Bahrain, apartment buildings were hit, civilians were affected, and that's where the fear began. Not just in one country, but throughout the entire region. Now, footage from the first day of the chaos has surfaced. And what you'll see is not just a simple military conflict, but a situation that's rapidly escalating and could spiral out of control at any moment. There's mercy. What's even more surprising here is that even though countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates clearly stated that the US cannot use their bases or airspace to attack Iran, Iran ignored this. And even though almost a month has passed since the war started, that condition still remains. But despite everything, Iran still attacked them. And it wasn't just military bases that were targeted. Even civilian buildings, airports, ports, and of course oil tankers. This is where the fight changed because it was no longer just about the countries in the Middle East. Iran expanded their operations all the way to international waters, particularly in the Strait of Hormuz, a very important passageway for ships from different countries. This does not belong to Iran. All countries have equal rights to pass through here. But even so, it still became a target. Cargo ships and tankers that had nothing to do with the war were attacked one by one. There was even footage from Thai sailors, just ordinary people who only wanted to go home. And while they were trying to leave, that's when they were attacked. Imagine, they came from Thailand, a country that had nothing to do with the war, but they still became targets. And until now, they're still being pursued by the Iranian Navy, including the IRGC Navy. Now, some people say that Iran had no choice. They can't match the military strength of America. And honestly, that might be a fair point, but it doesn't change one clear fact. When civilians are targeted, there's only one word for that: terrorism, no matter what the reason is. And because of these attacks, the scope of the war grew even bigger, beyond what Iran expected. And just yesterday, Donald Trump released a statement. According to Donald Trump, the biggest bridge in Iran has completely collapsed, and it can never be used again. It's time for Iran to reach an agreement before it's too late, before nothing is left. Now, of course, there's a debate online about whether what was done was legal or not. Some lawyers say it's legal, while others say it's not. And honestly, I'm not a lawyer, so my opinion doesn't really carry weight on that issue. But there's one thing that's clear in the history of war: bridges have long been targets. Even before, for example, during the Russia-Ukraine war, at first, Ukraine themselves destroyed their own bridges to stop Russia's advance. And when they counterattacked, Russia did the same thing. They destroyed the bridges to escape and avoid the enemy. In other words, this kind of destruction has long been part of Russia's war strategy. The bridge that was hit in Iran wasn't just any bridge, it's one of the most important. According to U.S. officials, the Iranian military uses it to transport missiles and parts from Tehran to launch sites in western Iran. But on the other hand, Iran says something different. According to them, the bridge isn't finished yet. It's still under construction. That's why the discussion has become even more complicated. Because if it's not finished yet, how is the military able to use it? And this is where the big question started to form. Because according to reports, it's been said for a long time that the bridge will be open to the public. But it keeps getting postponed. There's always a reason that it's still under construction. That's why ordinary people can't use it. But while it's closed to the public, the military continues to use it. A situation that makes the truth even more unclear. And to make this clearer, there's a former content creator who gave a more detailed explanation. Let's listen to this.
This bridge, B1, was not part of Iran's heritage. This was a new bridge, a newly built bridge that wasn't even open. And there are two reasons this was hit. They were supposed to be opening it officially to traffic earlier in the year. Well, technically, it was supposed to be 2 years ago, last year, whatever. And then it was delayed because obviously the Islamic socialist economic policies are not really that competent. And then it was delayed again. It was supposed to be open 2 months ago and it wasn't still ready, as you can also see in there. In this image, it was not complete anyway. But they made it sound on the mainstream media. They made it sound like this was a bridge that was active, traffic flowing, and randomly innocent civilians were getting hit by the Americans and the Israelis. This is a war crime. Calm down. The reason this was hit was actually because it wasn't officially open. So, symbolically, this was part of that. We're going to hit your infrastructure, but we're going to hit something that's not actually open. Secondly, this was still important when it comes to logistics going forward. Because while this wasn't open to the public, it was open to the IRGC. So, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps over the last few weeks were using the B1 bridge to transport military equipment between Karaj and Tehran.
And here's what Trump said about how he would rain bombs on Iran and send it back to the Stone Age.
It was made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We are going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong in the meantime. Discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' deaths. They're all dead.
According to some analyses, some say that the bridge is clearly a military target. If there is a strike on a bridge used by the military, that is legal, because it is part of war logistics. But this is where a big problem comes in. Because even if there is a basis for the strike, the way leaders speak can make the situation worse. When the words are too harsh, they also become weapons for propaganda. And for the other side, they use this to make it seem like the target is not just the government, but also the civilians. A narrative that many people can easily believe. So even though it's clearly stated that the US does not intentionally target ordinary people in Iran, the public comes away with a different impression. But while this debate is happening, there's an even more serious issue that continues to unfold within Iran itself. It will be debated whether it's legal or not, because it's very clear this is a violation of the laws of war. According to reports, Iran has allegedly started recruiting children as young as 12 years old to join the IRGC's military campaigns. And according to Amnesty International, this is clearly a war crime. It is illegal under international law. There's no debate, no gray area. It's a direct violation, and it doesn't end there. Executions also continue There was an 18-year-old man who was killed just for joining the protest last January. Imagine that. a young man who still had his whole life ahead of him was cut down just for protesting. In fact, he was already the 9th person killed since the war started, and it's only been almost a month. And if you think about it, an 18-year-old today was only born around 2007 or 2008. His whole life hasn't even started yet. But it was already cut short, just because of a protest that started as an economic issue. People are tired of the government's mismanagement. And even the leader of Iran himself admitted that there is a problem. But instead of fixing it, they chose to silence those who oppose. Not only the protesters are targeted, but also the lawyers who defend the oppressed. According to reports, there was a human rights lawyer who was arrested just for defending people who were arrested and killed without due process. It means that in that country, anyone who speaks out against injustice becomes a target because of the fear that protests might erupt again. And while this is happening inside Iran, outside Iran, the situation is getting even worse because the attacks are not stopping. One of the most dangerous things is the targeting of desalination plants in Kuwait. These provide almost 90% of the country's drinking water. This means that if these are hit, it's not just a simple attack. It's a threat to the lives of the entire population because without water, no one can survive. And until now, it's not clear how they are explaining this. Maybe in their view, because there are U.S. soldiers in Kuwait and both of them use the water, they are making the water supply a military target. But if that's the logic, then almost everything can be made a target. And that's the most dangerous part because the line between military and civilian disappears. But even they seem to have a hard time defending this, so what they do is shift the blame to others. In a recent incident, they pointed to Israel as the one responsible for the attack on the desalination plant. And in the past weeks, this pattern has been repeated over and over. When they can't explain an attack, they blame the U.S. or Israel. But in the eyes of the world, what's happening is gradually becoming clearer. And now, even the civilians in Kuwait. This is starting to become an important point. Because when the citizens themselves start to protest, it gives their government a reason to join the fight. And that's one of the things many people fear. Because when that happens, the war will spread even more, and it might become uncontrollable. That's why until now, many countries in the region still have not become directly involved. Because they don't want to appear as allies of Israel against their fellow Muslims. And for the monarchies in the Middle East, that's dangerous because it could cause unrest within their own countries. But now, it seems like the situation is slowly changing. Because of Iran's continued attacks, there are signs that others might join in. Just recently, a military official from Iraq said that the United Arab Emirates might also enter the war. And according to him, a decision about this will be made soon. In an interview, he was asked if the UAE would join the fight alongside the US and Israel. And the answer was, they are not yet part of the conflict, but they are not ruling out the possibility either. According to a UAE military official, we're not saying it won't happen, but we have the right to defend ourselves against any threat. This means for now it's just defense, but if things get worse, they are ready to take action. And what's even more surprising is that even though more than a month into the war, and even though they've been repeatedly hit by missiles and drones, the UAE still doesn't allow the US to use their bases or airspace to attack Iran. Their position is clear. They don't want to be a launch pad for war. But even so, Iran doesn't stop. And it's not just military targets being hit. Even civilians keep getting affected. In another question, the UAE clarified, according to a UAE official, our territory is not being used to attack Iran, and this will not happen. This means, according to them, Iran's accusation that the US attacks are coming from the UAE is not true. But even with a clear answer, Iran continues to target their country. And this is where the most important question comes in. Why? Why is Iran acting this way? To understand that, we need to go back to the past, not just to the Iranian Revolution, but even further, all the way back to the time of the Qajar dynasty in the 19th century, because the decisions of the leaders back then are still felt today. And if you want to better understand how Iran ended up in this situation, we have even deeper things to discuss. Because this story isn't just about the current war. This is a story of history, power, and decisions that continue to shape the world today.